Hello, everybody. You are tuning in to Drunk Dietitians, and we had a incredible guest today. I don't even know how to introduce somebody with the amount of credentials that she has and the just listing of places she's been and what she does. But we interviewed the one and only Joy Bauer, who is the NBC Today Show's health and wellness expert. So you've probably heard of her. And she's also one of, I'm going to speak for myself, but probably for Sam also, one of my dietitian idols. I mean, she has done everything. She has been in the media for years. I think she told us at this episode she started her career in '96. She has quite the amount of experience and information, and she shared a lot, if you're an aspiring dietitian, a lot about how to, get into this field and do your thing in it and grow. But also, if you're just a human being, a lot about life and what's important and how to cherish it, which was a huge takeaway for me.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I knew she'd always been with NBC. She's been with them for 14 years, but just hearing she was on The View, she was on Regis and Kelly back when it wasn't Kelly and Ryan. And so just learning about that side of things, because you see dietitians in the media, but I don't think you ever really learn how it all connects. And that's something I'm really passionate about. So I feel like hearing that from her was really cool. And just how she's developed into the dietitian she has today and stayed relevant, because I think a lot of times dietitians throughout the field, it's easy to kind of get lost because the field is always evolving. So that was really, really interesting. And she was just so fun. She
and real.
Yeah. Yeah. Her house is under construction. We didn't get video because we couldn't figure out how to get her video to work. She was I'm in my pajamas, my hair's in a scrunchie on the top of my head. Here I am.
So real, so relatable. And her message is so very much she loves food and she wants you to love food too, which was fun to talk about, where she gets her inspiration for all of her recipes and, the work that she does. It was just really fun. My favorite book of hers was Food Cures, but she has some really, I didn't realize she had over 14 books, I think she said, or 14 on the New York bestseller list. I mean, pretty incredible and inspiring in so many ways.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about, which I'm bringing it up now, but one of her newest, we had so much to talk about, but she does that one Yummy Yoga, which talks about poses with kids and little treats and and I know some of my clients have brought me that book and they're what do you think about this? And full circle, now we're interviewing her on the podcast. So
I just ordered it for my cousin who has a baby.
Yes,
while we were on this, I was oh my God, this is so cute.
I know. Yeah, I have so many clients that use it. So for everybody listening, I'm sure you've seen Joy before if you've ever tuned into the Today Show. But now you get to see her on our platform. So let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Drunk Dietitians. We are super excited for this episode.
Beyond
excited for this episode because we have one of our favorite dietitians, a very nationally known dietitian. She's the health and wellness expert of the NBC's Today Show. So chances are, if you're listening to this, you have seen this beautiful woman before. We have Miss Joy Bauer. Joy, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, I am so happy to be here. And I got my cocktail in hand and I am ready to go with you guys.
Yeah. So today, although it is a Monday, I have a nice little LaCroix spritzer here. So we love our LaCroix, which Joy just happens to be the national dietitian for LaCroix. So what a better match than that.
I love that that's what you're drinking. And that's what I'm drinking right now too. I'm a little biased to the pamplemousse.
Pamplemousse, that's a good one. I wish I was with you guys. I actually am returning from a bachelorette party, and a bachelorette party in your 30s is quite different than in your 20s. So I'm with you in spirit, but drinking water today.
You had enough alcohol for a while.
No, but honestly, mine is a mocktail. So.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, there's so much we want to get to, but before we jump in all things nutrition, Joy, I'm going to have Jenna start you out with a little this or that, just a fun little get to know you game. So take it away, Jenna.
All right. You ready? Just first thing that comes to mind, wine or beer?
Wine.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tequila or vodka?
Tequila.
That was a hesitation. I like it.
It's a little bit of a tie. I was going to say tie. I'm retracting. It's a tie.
There you go. Deal. Snow or sand?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say snow.
Oh, I love that. Why?
Yeah.
I love the coziness of it. I love a great snowstorm. And, you know, I'm a native New Yorker, and I just feel like every time it snows outside, not the day after, but the day of, it's so beautiful. And we also have a house in the Berkshires in New England. And I just absolutely love the vibe of plopping on the couch with a great comfy blanket over you and setting a fire and sipping that wine and watching something fabulous on TV.
I kind of wish it was snowing right now.
But it kind of sounds like it kind of sounds like, Joy, you don't want to be in the snow, right? You just want it. No way.
You are so totally right on that. I want the snow excuse of cuddling up and doing all that inside activity. You're so right.
I love that. Okay, couple more. Netflix and chill or night out on the town?
Oh man, that's such a hard one. It's a tie. It's a tie.
All right. I love that too. Except after this weekend, Netflix and chill is really all I want to do. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Oh man, you're asking the hard question. So innately, I just want to respond and say crunchy, but truth be told, a lot of my recipes, I would require the smooth texture. So I think for recipes, smooth, but crunchy, you know, right out of the jar. Big, like dollop with my finger. I'm a crunchy girl.
Oh, I love that so much. All right, fair. Last question. If you could have anything in this world in limitless quantities, but it couldn't be money, what would it be?
Love.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Oh, love for sure.
That's a great answer. So many people go like materialistic with it. So whenever we have someone say like love or like something sweet like that, it's like, oh, that's so nice.
Just so you know, I was sort of thinking about melty vanilla ice cream, but then love overtook me.
That kind of like is love though. I feel like that falls
because I found like love was so broad that absolutely fell within the umbrella. Like there are so many things that fall within love. Yeah. I'm sticking with love.
Well, Joy, we love you. And before we started recording today, we were talking about how Sammy and I know each other and how we know you and all of your incredible credentials. You have so much going on right now, including a new book coming out, which I'm staring at the cover right now. You look so beautiful and happy in this picture. And I'm loving the pink scheme. That's my favorite color. But can you tell us a little bit more about you and all of the things that you do? I mean, you are like the OG dietitian of all dietitians.
You are so and you guys have the best energy ever. I mean, I'm sitting here with the biggest smile on my face. I mean, I think that you both can probably relate to this in that I just feel so grateful to be in this field. I love what I do, and it just makes me want to work that much harder. And there's nothing more rewarding than having people on a daily basis. And again, like everyone listening, and you both feel this each and every day as well, people telling you that by following one of your tips or tricks or recipes or pieces of advice, it has exponentially changed their lives for the better. And that means so many different things to different people. Sometimes it's enabled them to lose weight. Other times it's enabled them to just boost their energy or feel more comfortable in their skin or help their spouse get off a statin medication. We are in the best field. Like, how can you not, you know, just walk around with a smile on your face? It's so great. And I feel lucky because I didn't necessarily find the field. It found me. Originally, I thought I was going to go to medical school and be a pediatrician. And I took a little bit of a left turn. And after my undergrad, I got a graduate degree in clinical nutrition over at NYU. And it was one of those serendipitous moments. The light bulb went off. I have the gift of gab. I have a passion for health. I love to eat. I love to play with food. And, you know, truly love helping people. And health made so much sense to me. So here I am.
Oh, that's amazing.
Feeling lucky, pinching myself every single day.
Yeah. So Before we get off of that topic, how long have you been in the field of nutrition? Just to give our listeners like a little background on what an expert you really are.
100 years. I'm so old. 120 years.
And looking amazing, girl. So.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I feel great. I really, really do feel great. But like, yeah, I'm old. Let's see, I got into the field. I started working in clinical at Mount Sinai Hospital. First, I was in the neurosurgical service, and then I was the director of nutrition for pediatric cardiology for years. And that was this is when I date myself, I think it was like in 96.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, like 1996. I almost said 1896.
It's Monday.
I know. I swear my LaCroix is not spiked. Yeah, so I've been in the field a very, very long time. And, like it constantly evolves. So it's just pretty cool to stay up on the top, the new research and, sort of take your philosophies and your values in the various directions and the paths that, the research leads us to. But what's also really interesting is that it doesn't change all that much. Common sense, eating smart, moving more, like those fundamentals really remain. It's just about repackaging and making the information more creative and accessible and buzzy for people so they latch on.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, so starting out in clinical, right, that's very different than NBC Today show. So I have a passion. So I was on the news this morning locally, again, local Channel 4, no NBC, but I have a passion for that, like being in front of the camera and like educating population. So how did you find your way onto the Today show and writing books versus being in clinical before? Because those are very different careers.
They are. And I never, ever aspired to be on television. So I loved like the meaty, clinical, medically oriented aspect of nutrition. So clinical was really wonderful for me. And when I was in pediatric cardiology at Sinai, I not only worked inpatient in like the transplant unit and with clinical cases that were inpatient and also outpatient, they also gave me the opportunity to go out into the communities that were at high risk for heart disease and diabetes and obesity. And because of where Sinai is located, that was Harlem and East Harlem. And I worked with kids in kindergarten all the way through 12th grade and all of their parents. And it was such a fulfilling job. So I was doing clinical inpatient. I was doing a lot of community outpatient. I was volunteering for speaking engagements and writing free newsletter articles and doing like a lot of different kinds of things and feeling super, super fulfilled. But because I love to write, I started pitching articles to various glossy magazines. Then I got a book deal. And the book deal, the book deal was one of those idiot series. I was an idiot writer. Remember when Simon & Schuster came out with the Complete Idiot's Guide to Total Nutrition? Yeah. So I was a true idiot writer. And the book actually did very well because it was a time when people, again, many, many years ago, it was a time when people were first starting to take food as medicine very seriously. It wasn't just a way to enable you to lose weight. It was a way to enable you to increase your brain power and your energy and declog your arteries and reduce your risk for certain cancers and heart disease and reverse diabetes. So people were looking at food much more thoughtfully. So because of that, the book did really well. And then it started landing on the desks of a lot of different producers. And the first producer that called me was at The View. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you when this producer called me and I came in. Now, think about The View. The View at the time had 4 different hosts. And I was on with 2 couples because the whole segment was on what happens when you have very different dietary goals and eating styles than your significant other. How do you sort of coexist in the same environment? So it was me, 2 different couples and 4 hosts. And I maybe had 2 sentences of lines to say and I nearly vomited right on my food display. My heart was racing a million miles a minute. I was a nervous wreck. I was having a panic attack. No, I never aspired to be on television.
Hearing that
But it
gives
went
me so much life.
Oh my goodness. Like, I so vividly remember that segment. It was crazy. But I didn't throw up, and I got through the segment, and then it rated really well, because again, it was a time when people were really interested in food, but they weren't doing loads and loads of segments like that on TV. So The View had me come back the next week and the next week and the next week. And then before you knew it, I needed an entertainment attorney to wrap up a deal they had given me to be the nutritionist on air. So I did The View, and I still had all my other jobs.
Yeah.
I did The View for about a year, and then I got a stint on Regis and Kelly, because it was Regis and Kelly at the time. Again, dating myself.
I always watch Regis and Kelly. I love
They
it.
were so great. They were so great. And I got a lot of airtime. And then I feel like we need a drum roll here.
Okay.
The Today Show was tracking me. And it was the coolest thing, because when the Today Show called me, I remember what I was wearing, where I was standing, what we were talking about, because it was such a big deal to me. I grew up with the Today Show on in my kitchen every single morning. And that was sort of like the beginning of where I'm at now. Now I've been with the show for 14 years as their, resident nutrition and health expert. And I love it. And it doesn't matter what station you do, that feeling of being able to reach millions of people, so many people in just a matter of minutes with a wealth of health information. So for me, media has given me this platform to deliver sound and sane health advice to so many people, and it feels so good. And again, I just feel so grateful.
Yeah. So awesome. And 14 must be your lucky number, because I'm looking at a sheet that also says you're a New York Times bestseller 14 times. Is that right?
Well, I think I don't know what the numbers are, but I do know, I think I have a lot of books.
That's so awesome.
I just love to write.
So Food Cures was a staple in my actual physical office when I was in ShopRite. In store, that was the book that I always referred all of my clients to. Like, oh, you have this question? Hold on. Let me see. Let me show you what Joy has to say.
Well, we're all science nerds. So that book, enabled me to really do a deep dive into the science. And I have such a crackerjack great team. And I don't want to take all the credit for that book or any of my books, that's for sure, because I have a lot of help and, very, very appreciative for that. But the Food Cures book, that was a beast. That was a beast. And I had a hard time sleeping at night because every time I would go to sleep, I would have this nightmare that another new study would come back, or would come out, and I would miss it and have to get it in before print. And it was crazy. But yeah, thank you for that. Lots of work.
So good. So good.
Yeah. So in addition to today's show, we have some notes written down here. Do you still work with the New York City Ballet as well?
I do. I love that job. And I will tell you that, the ballerinas, it's a very, very different world than it was 20 years ago. I mean, they take their health seriously. And I mean, management is super, super supportive for even the apprentices or the aspiring principal ballerinas, and of course all of the soloists. If they think that there's an issue or anyone has any kind of a stress fracture or injury, they bring nutrition to the front and center. They really want to keep their energy up. They want to keep their mental attitudes and their mindsets in a healthy place. It's very inspiring. It really is. And I love my ballerinas.
Is that a hard place to be a dietitian, though, in a scenario where, food is, I think, probably not the first thing that they're thinking about? And I don't know any statistics on any eating disorders with ballerinas, but I could imagine, since body image is so in the focus, that can be present, even though they're athletes and they're treated like athletes. Is that difficult for you?
It's very difficult, but in a lot of ways, it's very fulfilling, and in a lot of ways, it's I don't want to say the word easy, but it's manageable, because this is their livelihood. And because it's their livelihood, they don't want to mess it up. And they know that nutrition plays a very, very prominent part. So, the sort of tricky balance here is to try a little bit to defy genetics, because a lot of them, are not built to be as thin as they need to be in order to excel. But at the same time, how to make every single calorie and food choice count, so they are taking in enough and they're taking in the right vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and carbs and protein and fat and all of that jazz. But they care. And they do make it a priority, and they love to eat. It's not because they don't love to eat. So they're willing participants in sessions. And a lot of the times what I do is I do like sort of the group workshops. And then for the one-on-one consultations, I have a very seasoned, top-notch group of dietitians that I then refer to.
Awesome.
But so far, it's been many, many years. And gosh, guys, there's nothing like sitting at those galas, the grand, extraordinary galas at Lincoln Center. And just, I have this permagrin on my face. I feel like the proud mom. I watch them up there, and they are just unbelievable.
Oh my God, they're so strong.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, the guys have quite the opposite. They have a hard time keeping the weight on and maintaining their muscle mass. So like the goals with the girls are very, very different than the guys. The guys, it's all about how much can we get in and getting enough protein and, making sure that they have quality calories, but many, many, many quality calories.
That's a good one.
They got to throw those chicks around.
So how do you balance like everything that you do? Because I feel like you're just like all over the place.
Probably the same way you guys do. Every day is different. I sort of feel like I'm shot out of a cannon, but I'm very organized with my schedule. And, the best laid plans don't always work out as well. So I have my very organized calendar, but I will say, at least a few times each week, a time-sensitive new project will land on my lap, and we just have to pivot and change gears, and just being very nimble. And again, this goes back to kudos for my team. I have an editorial director, and I have my lead director of nutrition. So a big shout out to Donna Fennessy and to Rebecca Foreman, and they just keep me sane. I pivot, they pivot. We all pivot together.
Synchronized swimming.
Right.
It's so right. Sometimes it's a little clunky. We're not always synchronized, but I love that you put that visual out there. And we also have four seasoned interns every semester who are just fabulous. And again, like they help us get the work done.
So awesome.
Yeah. How big is your team then?
So I have my core team is actually very small. So we have our interns, and I have Donna, and I have Rebecca. So that's the core team. But then I have a team for my Women's Day column. I have a team for my NBC spots. I have a team for my website. So we have different companies, but the core, it's really, really the three of us plus the interns. And so we have our hand in everything. Yeah. But then we have resources for all the different spokes.
Yeah.
Even for the books, like I have like my editors in the publishing house.
Yeah.
So awesome. So inspiring. Giving dietitians so much to build towards. Like, it's so incredible.
Yeah. And the possibilities are endless. I think it's amazing that you do so many different things, whether it's TV, sports nutrition with the ballet, writing books. Like it's not just like you have to sit in a chair and do one job and do it really well. You can do many things that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And that's like the fun thing for me. I think that different personalities work better in different kind of predicaments like that. I like to be all over the place. Somebody else would probably like to be more stable and, have their security and then shut it off when the workday is done. My workday never ends. and so now my 3 kids are out of the house right now. My youngest is in college. But when my kids were all home, I had to make such an effort to, put the iPhone away, close the computer, sit down to dinner. And then of course, as soon as they were off doing homework or, sleeping, although truth be told, I usually go to sleep before they did. But then I could hop back on my work. But it's a juggle. I mean, it is a balancing act. And everybody says, how do you balance and, how do you sort of sort through your work life and your personal life? There's not really a balance. You know what? You take one day at a time, and you really do try to be present, though. And I think my biggest advice, do you guys have kids?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So my biggest advice for you when you do have kids, and anyone listening that does have kids, and the people that do have kids are going to feel this and instantly understand. You only get one shot at having your kids grow up, and you don't want to miss a thing. Work is always going to be there. And this is one thing I think I've mastered. Just shelf the work stuff and don't miss one opportunity to experience something amazing and incredible with your children. You will never regret that. You will regret the opposite, working instead of being there. And I'm telling you, like, the opportunities always come around. I've said no to a lot of things. And when you say no to these great opportunities, you think, oh my gosh, I'm making the biggest mistake ever. I'm never going to have this opportunity again. Oh, yes, you will. Because it's good things for good people. We work hard, we're smart, we produce. So the opportunities never stop coming. So it's okay to pick and choose and say no.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a picture of your family right now on your Instagram, and they're all so beautiful and happy. And so seems like that is the best advice ever for anybody listening.
Truly my greatest accomplishment. I can't talk, see? And I promise you it's a mocktail.
It's just Monday.
My greatest accomplishment are, definitely are my three kids. My hubby and my fur baby, the five of us. It's just like the best ever. Family is where it's at.
So good. I think that's a really important message for anybody in this field or not, just about priorities. I know something Sam and I talk about a lot on here is that, relating that back to food. And if you're constantly overthinking about food and overthinking about weight loss and things that like just distract your thoughts, you miss out on life. And it's the same thing in dietitian and entrepreneurship, like understanding that time goes away. And we can never get that back. So that was such a beautiful way to really symbolize all of that and pull it together for us. So thank you for sharing.
And I love that, you brought in food as well, because, as dietitians, we know that food is so much more than fuel, right? There, I said it.
Yeah.
It's delicious, and it's love, and it's adventure, and it's experience. And so my whole philosophy has always been, and I raised my kids with this philosophy as well, 90-10. You go out of your way to eat healthy 90% of the time, and then there's 10% wiggle room for the fun stuff that may not necessarily fall under the health umbrella, because food is a lot of things, and you don't want to miss out on it.
Love that. And I know we're running out of time here, but you're also an amazing chef. Where do you come up with your inspiration for some of these amazing recipes? I know you have incredible cookbooks, but where does this all come from?
Everywhere. I'm a foodie, so I've always loved to experiment in the kitchen. And I think, I get my inspiration from viewers, from social media. I'm always asking for requests. Like, one of my favorite things is to take these, monstrosities, indulgences, like beloved classics, everything from buffalo wings and macaroni and cheese and pan pizzas, and transform them into healthified, lighter versions. So I've been doing this for so many years. I used to have a series on the show called From Junk Food to Joy Food. And it just sort of continued. And other ways that I get my inspiration is from restaurants. When I go to restaurants and I look on the menu, I'm always inspired by specials that the chefs have come up with. And then what I'll do is, tweak some of the ingredients to the right and to the left, and I'll make it my own in a more healthified manner. Lots of inspirations out there. And sometimes like at 2:00 in the morning, boom, I have an idea and I have to get up and quickly email it to myself. It's so funny. You know, you guys know, you've been there.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
So for people listening, we usually say, like, we call it our nutrition tipsy, or like a tip that people can take away. I know you kind of already gave us like a big tip of life, like more from like a parenting, setting boundaries. But for anyone who's listening from a nutrition standpoint, related to like if they're trying to make healthier behaviors around food, or increase their nutrient density with food, what would be like your number one tip for people?
My number one tip. So I think an action tip that is tangible and has tremendous payback would be to incorporate a produce item into each and every meal. And I love to be able to tell people what to eat versus what not to eat. So just simply by adding a vegetable or a fruit into your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you will increase the volume and the fiber, so it helps to fill us up without filling us out. And also it will shower your body with vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and all of the good stuff that just improve our groove, make us feel fantastic. So that would be like an action-oriented tip. And I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, for dietitians that are listening and like they want to get out there and they want to start some sort of a new business or try something new, I'm going to share something that my dad has always told me, and it has resonated in such a big way. And that is, every failure is the beginning of a new success. Mm-hmm. And I have fallen on my butt so many times throughout my career, but I always hear him in my head. He's like the smartest guy I know, still to this day. And I always hear him in my head saying that every time I do try something and it doesn't necessarily work out. And it just gives me so much oomph to pick myself up and forge forward.
That's awesome. I think that's
amazing.
Huge. I was listening to, I think, Gary Vee's podcast. He's like a big entrepreneur and like social media, but he was saying how like whenever you do something great or do something really good, it makes you just think like, I'm the best, like I know what I'm doing, versus like when you fail, then you're like, oh, what did I learn from that? And how do we learn to move forward from it? So we learn from our failures. And I think the same thing goes with food, right? People will go on very obscure diets nowadays and then they'll feel like a failure, but really it's like, no, that's a lived experience that we can learn from. It's not a failure.
So that's such a great point. And I think it takes a big person to press the pause button and reflect, and then forge forward in a positive manner, versus just beating yourself up and getting depressed and then like, eating 3 shelves on the fridge. So it's really, really important to just, take that time to think about what went down and how to do better the next time. And that translates to every single aspect of life.
I love it.
So true. Well, cheers virtually to both of you. Clink, clink, clink. Thank you so much for sharing your time out of that incredibly busy schedule. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you so much for how you inspire so many thousands of people every day. We are so honored and grateful for your time this morning and can't wait to keep following along for all your successes.
You are so welcome, and it was my pleasure to be here. And the next time we need to do this in person.
Oh my God, yes. Don't tempt me.
We will bring our LaCroix spritzers to the Today Show anytime you want.
I love it. You guys are a lot of fun, and you're going to have huge success with this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy. Have the best week.
Mwah. You guys too. Bye-bye.
Bye, Joy.